with a special episode of Stratheia. I'm Murtaza Solangi. Today we have a special guest, Mushahid Hussain Sayed, former senator, renowned scholar, former chairman of Senate Foreign Relations as well as Foreign Affairs Committee, Senate Defense Committee, and former Minister of Information, Broadcasting and Culture. He has been wearing many hats, including the founder, editor of very renowned English daily, The Muslim. There are so many things about him, including currently the position he holds, the chairman of Pakistan-China Institute, one of the known and renowned experts of China and especially Pakistan-China relations. Thank you, Shaji. I forgot many things about you, but whatever I could.
Thank you very much. It's very kind of you, Ji. It's a pleasure. You are an old and a dear friend.
Shah Sahab, I would start with, there are so many things about this evolving global order. As a young man, I knew that we lived then in a bipolar world. After 90s, then there was this mantra that no, now there's only one superpower, so that bipolarity has ended.
It's unipolar.
Now it is unipolar. But for last few years, we have been hearing that now we are again headed towards bipolar system. So where are we?
I think we are witnessing a huge transformation in this turbulent world. And I think you and I, we have seen so much, both in the West and the East. We are very lucky to be living in this epoch, where you see the global center of gravity shifting slowly but surely from the West to the East. The dawn of the Asian century. It's in the offing, and one era is coming to an end. I remember what the Chinese president said recently when I was in Beijing, that we are witnessing once in a century changes. And then I read in The Economist, they had a cover story, and they said that the post-World War II Western-dominated economic and political order is coming apart. And then they had a cover story that China as the scientific superpower, and they gave statistics also and so forth. So I think that this transformation is affecting relationships, roles of countries, technology, military prowess, economic development, soft power. So it's, and we are seeing the building blocks of this new emerging order. Recently, our Prime Minister was in Astana, Shanghai Cooperation Organization. I was in Vladivostok, BRICS, that's again. And in Beijing, they were marking the 70 years of the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence, which were first enunciated by the great Premier Zhou Enlai 70 years ago. First non-Western alternative about the global order emanating with roots in Asia. So I think the contours of a new order are already there, but it's not going to be smooth or simple. You also all seeing the competition, at times confrontation, and sometimes happily cooperation as well.
How has this happened? What happened to the Western Bloc led by United States? What caused this degeneration, and how was it possible to be pushed back?
That's a very interesting question. When I was studying in Washington, D.C., in Georgetown University, School of Foreign Service, we saw the world through Washington, D.C. This was the new Rome, the American empire, American domination, unipolar world, and everything, the world revolved around Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, but it was the global capital also. I would say two developments. One, that after the breakup of the Soviet Union in 1991, when the US actually was the sole superpower, I think they had the opportunity to do a lot of course correction globally, resolve disputes like Palestine or Kashmir, reset relationships. But I think imperial hubris got in the way. They said, we are here, we are going to stay forever. As they say in the Catholic marriage, till death do us part. And nobody can challenge the American hegemony and supremacy. That was one. And the second one was the cardinal mistake made by the Bush administration and the neocons. They had a grandiose design to reshape the Muslim world. And they got that opportunity 9/11. They seized that. Okay, now, gotcha, as the Americans say. We are going to do that. We will decide. And they squandered, they wasted a historic opportunity. 20 years in the so-called war on terror, $6.5 trillion. This is the Brown University's assessment. Fighting wars which were unwinnable, close to our Fatah, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Libya, Somalia, Yemen. And so 20 years they were fixated on that. And they said I was not on the ball. And at the same time, an Asian country called the People's Republic of China was concentrating only on economic development. No wars, no wastage of money, slowly consolidating themselves, the Asian way, which is, after all, they are a civilization which is 5,000 years old. America is a country which is 250 years old. So there's a difference. America is a bit more gung-ho, John Wayne style. They'd like to dominate, shoot their way through. So Chinese, they believe in the process, not as an event. And when the Americans were squandering $6.5 trillion, the Chinese spent $2 trillion in 3,000 projects in Asia, Africa, Latin America, Europe, Middle East. Roads, railways, ports, pipelines, economy, energy, education. And then suddenly, one fine morning, the Americans woke up. What has happened? And it was like, that somebody woke up from a slumber and they discovered that the world has changed beyond recognition. But now it was too late to stop China.
You rightly described as, they say, a waning moon of Western powers led by United States and a waxing power of China. In 50s, if you remember, during Khrushchev's period, when first Sino-Soviet conflict started, before that, during Stalin and previously, Soviet Union, now Russia, was the big brother of the socialist camp, and China was a smaller brother, a younger brother, I would say.
A very poor brother.
And a poor brother. They became nuclear power with the help of Soviet Union and
1964.
Exactly. We see like some kind of reversal of roles here. China seems to be leading and Russia is collaborating. First they were Iron brothers, then they became adversaries. and now they are becoming, we see a new kind of collaboration between them. How do you, define the relationship, and how do you see the future of these two major powers?
Well, it's been a remarkable change, a twofold change. One is that the nature of relationship is role swapping. The big brother is no longer the big brother. And secondly, from confrontation, it is now close collaboration. And when it was 50s, Chairman Mao, when he first went to China, from China to Russia, Soviet Union, in 1950, after the Chinese Revolution, he spent 3 months there. He wanted to take guidance from Stalin, learn from them. And then again, when he went in 1957 for the 40th anniversary of the Bolshevik Revolution, he spent time. So they were being guided by the Russian friends, Russian experts, Russian style of leadership and governance. And then the conflict started with de-Stalinization of Khrushchev, his famous speech at the 20th Party Congress in 56. But now you can see very clearly that the leading role is China. And Xi Jinping and Putin have met in the last 10 years 40 times. It's the most that any leader that Xi Jinping and Putin have met 40 times. And it's always China which takes the initiative in terms of ideas, issues, and also economic development. So that role, and I think Russia has been reconciled to that role. Because Russia also knows that China as the power which has the money and which is at peace with itself, internally and externally, China is now in the driving seat. And it suits Russia's interests. Whether even in the near abroad in Central Asia, where it was Russian territory, it's now China which is dominant. You can see at the SCO also, after Astana, Xi Jinping went to Dushanbe. And the way he was received like royalty, people coming to the airport, receiving him and taking him around. So I think that, and this alliance, I would now call it, not just a special relationship, it's de facto alliance, has been cemented thanks to, I think, the narrow-minded policies from the West, which have pushed them in together. I think it was the brilliance of Kissinger and Nixon that they pulled them apart in 71, where Pakistan was a bridge. And that was the biggest geopolitical change in the 20th century. And now, thanks to these policies, they pushed them together, made them closer together. Although I'm sure there are a lot of policies China may not agree, like Ukraine, for example. But because of the pressures that are coming from the West, especially the USA and the Europeans, ipso facto, it's an alliance.
I'm glad you mentioned Ukraine. Two major hotspots, Ukraine war, and Gaza. Who comes out as a winner and who comes out as a loser in these two flashpoints?
Let's start with the Gaza genocide. The West and its proxy Israel have already lost the war. Politically, morally, legally, diplomatically, and on the media front. Because it's a genocide in which the US and the West, some of the Western countries, are complicit of those crimes against humanity. And it's become an unwinnable war. I was watching this podcast yesterday by the famous Professor John Mearsheimer, who wrote the book, The Lobby. And he said this: Israel cannot defeat Hamas, they cannot defeat Hezbollah. And Israel is facing an existential crisis. And coming to Ukraine also, I think that the worst is behind. Russia initially, I think they felt it was a mistake. They got stuck. They were lured into this invasion. And for 1 year they had conscription. But now I think the support of not just China, but also the global South countries like Saudi Arabia, UAE, others, Russia is now turning the corner. So I feel that America is going to have an election. We don't know what.
November 5th.
Yes, and if Mr. Trump comes in, then all bets are off, because he says America first, and he is not going to bet on NATO's expansion. The first thing he'll do is stop the war, even on Russian terms, whether the Europeans like it or not. So I think that Ukraine now seems to be a losing effort, because the Americans and the West wanted to fight to the last Ukrainian, and Russia was bogged down. But the Russian economy has stabilized now, and so the new status quo is there. And even now you can see members of NATO or EU like Viktor Orban, Prime Minister of Hungary, visiting Moscow.
Let me pull you back to our region. How is this new realignment and repositioning of global powers affecting our region? Where does Pakistan fit in this whole game? Where does India go?
I feel Pakistan has huge opportunities, and Pakistan has now strategic space. Why do I say that? The Afghan war is over after 42 years. There's no active intervention in Afghanistan, no war there. Peace in Afghanistan, finally, by and large. CPEC is back on track, which is about regional connectivity. Iran, Saudi Arabia rapprochement, which means the Iran-Saudi proxy war in Pakistan is no longer there. And the Indian elections have spawned a weakened Modi. The bully boy has been cut down to size by the Indian electorate, and I salute the Indian electorate, especially the opposition and the left and liberal parties. So that kind of arrogance and hegemonism that was in the first 10 years, I think it's probably his last tenure as Prime Minister. So we have strategic space. And I feel that there are four what I call Muslim middle powers: Pakistan, Iran, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia. They are going to play a very important autonomous role. And what is that role? Connectivity. Pakistan and Central Asia, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, they are all looking up to Pakistan. The landlocked countries want to be land linked via Pakistan. China needs Pakistan. You can see the visit of the Pakistan Prime Minister, which was quite successful, where there was a comprehensive joint statement, which I think is a blueprint for future relations. What did Xi Jinping say to the Pakistan Prime Minister and to our army chief when he met them? China sees relations with Pakistan from a strategic long-term perspective. And Pakistan also had this reciprocity that it's going to be an unshakable mutual trust in the relationship. And China's path to development is a model for Global South. So in this situation, I think Pakistan can play the role. India, in my view, is isolated in the region. Look at the region. The mini Cold War has come here also. The campaign in Maldives, what was the campaign? India out. And they won the election. India only can bank on Bhutan and a little bit on Bangladesh. Pakistan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, other countries, Iran, Myanmar, Afghanistan, they're not in the Indian camp. So I think that this region also, because we are part of South Asia also, we are part of the broader region also, but I call it now Greater South Asia as a geo-economic concept, because it is connectivity. And who is the hub of regional connectivity? Pakistan. Saudis want to come in, UAE wants to come in, Iran, Afghanistan, the only outlet we have, or a little bit with Iran, and Central Asia. So I think that if we have strategic clarity on issues at home and abroad, a whole new world is opening up for us. We've got strategic space. So much that we can do to promote and protect the interests of a people and interests of a state.
SAARC is dead.
Thanks to India. Thanks to India. Because India has a veto since 2016.
India became full member of SCO just like Pakistan. Last year in Delhi, they converted SCO summit into a virtual one. So neither Pakistan nor China could attend. This year, Indian Prime Minister, on a flimsy pretext, chose not to attend SCO summit in Astana. Now SCO moves to China.
I think Modi is avoiding Xi Jinping, in my view. Not just G20, Xi Jinping didn't go to Delhi. In Samarkand at the SCO meeting, again, there was no bilateral between Modi and Xi. So you can see that that's why he made it virtual, because then he doesn't have to interact with them. So that shows also that the relationship between India and China is worsening. And I think what happened 2 weeks ago, the American congressional delegation, which included Nancy Pelosi, the former speaker, where did they go? First, Dharamsala, where Dalai Lama is based. And they said, we have passed the Tibet Resolve Act, and we support the right of self-determination of Tibet, which is a red line. That is a no-no for China under any circumstance. So basically you are talking of the breakup of China. That on Indian territory by the Americans, and then they met Modi. So you can see, and already there have been 2 military clashes between the Chinese army and the Indian army, Galwan, May 2020, and I think January 2021 also. So the situation, so Pakistan is somehow placed in a way, and we have a good relationship even with the West. We have a good communication there. When I went to Washington last year, I told the Americans, I said, you guys should know, we are the only game in town for you guys. Apart from Modi, who do you have? Russia, no-go area. Central Asia, no-go area. China, no-go area. Iran, no-go area. Afghanistan, no-go area. Mr. Erdogan is already moving closer to Putin. Saudi Arabia is also having good relations with Putin and Xi Jinping. So we are the one country where you can communicate with us.
The 50-year petrodollar
deal is over. 9th June 1974. And that's a very historic, significant development. And that's why I say the new world is based on 3 Ds. Democratization of international relations, that no one superpower or group of countries will control international relations. More democracy. Demilitarization. It has to be an economic vision, not a vision of a Cold War, AUKUS or Quad or Asian NATO. And de-dollarization. That dollar, the almighty dollar, is no longer going to be used as a political weapon. 68 countries out of 193 members of the UN have said, we are ready to trade in Rial, Rupee, RMB, Rand, Ruble. The world has been changed.
Let me ask you the last question, although we could have, as old friends, we could have gone on and on, but...
We can do it in a dacha in Russia.
Yes. You rightly explained the emergence of China and the rise of the Asian century. And nobody has a doubt about this rising economic, military, and scientific and technological power of China. But if you look at our region and globally, the soft power of the West is still dominant. Why is it that? Is there any thinking about how to change it in China, since you are a frequent China flyer?
I always say, and I think this is a fact also, that the biggest strength of the United States is not its military might, because they have lost all the land wars in Asia. Korea, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria. They have never won a land war in Asia. Their biggest strength is the soft power. And in soft power, whether it's Hollywood, or Bollywood even India, which is now, because Americans now say from Hollywood to Bollywood we have this relationship. That is the unofficial ministry of propaganda of both the US and of India. And that is a stronger, sharper, better in propaganda than the other side. And I tell my Chinese friends that I think you need to pull up your socks. The world has changed, and this is no longer the old traditional style of we don't call it propaganda, we call it strategic communication. We call it soft power. We call it narrative building. So whatever you call it, that is the need of the hour. And it has to be done swiftly and strongly, tuck, 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 as quick response. Otherwise, that old pace where you would issue press releases and you would wait for the party line to come, that is no longer the case. This is the age of digital media, social media, narrative building, and the propaganda is actually now, I wouldn't say it's gone beyond propaganda. It's information warfare. You don't have actual wars, you have warfare through information. And recently the report was there by Reuters that there was this information warfare campaign launched by Pentagon against Chinese vaccines in the COVID period. So I'm sure people would be listening somewhere, and they'll be doing something to rectify and reverse these wrongs. Inshallah, as we say.
That's it for today, folks. See you soon with the next episode of Stratheia Special. Goodbye.